And here we are. Hello, my friends. Welcome back. So previously we completed the design of the phone activity. So now we're going to write the necessary code for the phone authentication with Firebase. Let's continue where we left off. All right, so first, when a user enters a phone number, we'll send a code with SMS. Now for this, of course, first of all, we got to get the phone number entered by the user in the click listener of the Send SMS code button and assign it to a string. Val user phone number equals phone binding dot edit text phone number dot text dot to string. Okay, for phone number authentication in Firebase, we can use the phone auth options class. So I'll create an object from this class. Val options equals phone auth options dot new builder. So the new builder method takes the object of the Firebase auth class. So I'll create an auth object from the Firebase auth class in the global area. valauth colon Firebase auth equals Firebase auth dot get instance. So now we can write the auth object as the parameter. All right, let's continue. Now I will define the phone number. So for this, in the next line, I'll write dot set phone number. Inside the parenthesis, I'll write the user phone number, and we'll need to set the timeout, and that is, of course, the validity period of the incoming message. So I'll write dot set timeout. Now this method, of course, takes two parameters. The first one is the validity period of the code, and this will be the long type. And you can ensure that the code that you send to the user is valid for a certain period of time. Period could be a minute, could be a day, or in a month. That's for you to determine. I'm writing 60L here. That's because I want it to be valid for 60 seconds, and the L represents a long type. Oh, you know what? Could be fun to start a timer for the user to see, but I'm not going to do that right now. You can always add a counter right here if you want. But that way you see the user can see how long they have before they have to, get a new incoming code. But like I said, do that on your own time. Now the second parameter of this method is going to be to determine whether this 60 that I wrote here is seconds, minutes, or hours, right? So I'll write time unite dot second. So see, this way the code will be valid for 60 seconds. If I wrote time unite dot minute, well, that would be 60 minutes. So let's continue. So the next method, it will be the set activity method, right? So it's thanks to this method that we'll determine in which activity the incoming code will be verified. So inside these parentheses, I'm writing this at phone activity because I'm going to do both operations in this activity, right? And the next method will be set callbacks method. And I'll write m callbacks as a parameter. Now the m callbacks is the name of the object that we will create from the callback class. It'll give a warning because we haven't created this object yet. Okay, we'll create it soon, I promise. But here, lastly, I'll write .build. And now we'll call the verify phone number method of the phone auth provider class. So I write phone auth provider .verify phone number. Also, I'll give the object of the phone auth options, that is the options object, as a parameter. Okay, so this code here is standard for Android. And we'll now create the mCallbacks object. First, I'll create this object in the global area. So I'll write late init var mCallbacks colon phone auth provider dot on verification state changed callbacks. Now I wonder if you notice, see, this class is an abstract class. Do you remember? We cannot create an object from abstract classes. So to create an object from abstract classes, we use the object keyword. So that's how you do that, just to refresh your memory. All right, you remember. Good. So let's initialize this object in the onCreate function. So under the click listeners of the buttons, I'll write mcallbacks equals object colon phone auth provider dot on verification state changed callbacks. All right, so after putting in the curly braces, as you can see, the object keyword gets underlined by Android Studio because there are some functions that we'll need to implement. So click the object keyword, click the red lamp on the left, and select Implement Members. So I'll select these two functions and click OK. All right, so let's have a look at these functions. The first is the onVerificationCompleted function. And here we will describe the actions to be taken when that code is verified. The second is the onVerificationFailed method. And of course, we'll define the actions to be taken if the user code is wrong or it's timed out or whatever the problem might be. Now, we'll also add a third method here by override. So the name of this method is onCodeSent. I override this method. So Firebase sends the single-use code with a P0 parameter here. So the code Firebase sends is assigned to the P0 string here. The name of the variable here may be different for you because they can write the variable name here as S or code. But the important thing to remember here is that you know that the sent code is of the type string variable. Okay, so inside this function, we can take the code, transfer it to another global variable. Thus, we can use the code wherever we want. So for that reason, I'll create another variable in the global area. I'll write var verification code equals quotation mark. Now let's transfer the code to this variable. So inside the onCodeSent function, I write verification code equals P0. So I assigned the incoming code to the verification code string. I can now use this code elsewhere. So in this way, the code will be sent and we will receive the incoming code. All right, so now we've got to define the actions to be done when the user enters the incoming code in the required section and presses the button Verify. And we're going to do this in the click listener of the button Verify. But it's actually more convenient to write this process as a separate function and then call the function here. I wonder if you thought that yourself. Okay, so the name of this function can be sign in with SMS code. And in this function, I've got to first get the code that the user enters because I will compare this code with the sent code. So I can tell the user, hey, they entered the code correctly. Congratulations. All right, so I will assign the code entered by the user to the string variable. Val user enter code equals phone binding dot edit text to verification code dot text dot to string. Then I create an object from the phone auth credential class. I'll call this object credential. And I'll write credential equals phone auth provider dot get credential. Now here's where we determine the criteria for the login process. So this method will take two parameters. The first one is the sent code by Firebase, which is that verification code. The second one is the code entered by the user, right? So user enter code. Firebase will automatically check these two. Okay, so far so good. Now we have to create another function that makes the entry process according to these criteria. So I create this function just below. Here I create the method sign in with phone auth credential. This method takes the credential object created from the phone auth credential class as a parameter. And we've already set the criteria for the credential object above. So now we'll just check these criteria and do the login process. So the login process will be just like we did before. But now we will log in using the auth object. So I'll call the auth.signin with credential method. This method will also take the credential object as a parameter. Then I add the complete listener to check to see whether this method is logged in or not. I'm writing .add on complete listener. Also, I'll use the Lambda representation with the task object. Now, I wonder if you remember, this section is the same as other Firebase authentication sections. So here we check with the if statement using the task object. If task dot is successful, we define the operations to be performed. And in the else section, we'll define the actions to be taken in case of a problem. But we're going to do the operations here soon. I want to call the sign with phone auth credential function inside the sign in with SMS code function. So this function takes a credential object as a parameter. But we should also call the sign with SMS code function inside the click listener of the button verify. You see? All right, very good. So now, hey, we've completed the login process with phone number. Right, so the only thing left is to complete the procedures to be done when logging back in. So, in other words, what to do when the password is entered. So if task is successful, the main activity will be opened. So we do this again using intent. Val intent equals intent, this at phone activity. Main activity, :class.java. Next line, I'll write start activity intent. And we'll also close this page with the finish function. Now, in the case of else, we'll show a toast message to the user. And you can probably write the code you entered is incorrect in the message. The phone number authentication with Firebase is now almost ready, but we do have to do the last operation in Firebase, okay? So I'll just move on over to the Firebase website. So in the authentication section, I'll just switch to the sign-in method tab. You see it? Now, we've previously activated with email and password. So now I want to activate the phone entry. I'll click the Add New Provider button. So here I will select the phone authentication option. I'll enable the phone sign-in method and click Save. All right, so now everything's ready in our app. Let's run it and see how it looks. Application opens. Oh, I'll just log out first. Login activity was open. And I'll click on the sign in with phone number button. New activity opens. Now I'm entering the phone number in the new activity. So here I'll write the phone number of my own real Android device. Okay, just don't call me, okay? I mean, send me a message the conventional way. Anyway, the SMS with the verification code will be sent to my own device. Now I'll press the Send SMS Code button. See, so at this stage, the 60-second counter can start, but I left that up to you if you want to put that in or not. Also at this stage, though, it will be verified that you are not a robot. And yeah, the code has now arrived to my own Android device. I'll just tap in the incoming code. So when I click on the Verify to Sign In button, the main activity opens. Very cool. So by the way, just as a reminder, if you try to send the message more than once on the same device, the message actually might not come in again, and that's because the phone keeps the previous operation in its memory. If you do want to try it again, just uninstall the application from the phone, then switch the phone off and then back on again. If you've ever worked a help desk or done any support, that's pretty much standard, right? Just turn it off, turn it on. Anyway, you get the point. Also, you are going to add the SHA-1 key to the Firebase project. See, otherwise you cannot sign in with the SMS code. Now, we explained in detail the Firebase Android Studio integration and how to get SHA keys and add them to your Firebase project. So hopefully you have done that and you understand why it's necessary. So there you go, my friends. That is logging in by sending a one-time use code to the phone number. There is more to do, though, so I want to see you in the next one.